All right, we're here another episode of El Paso Local Business Area podcast. We're here with Karl Luth,
David, how are you doing,
the
sir?
law office of Karl Luth, right?
Yes, sir.
Nice to meet you. Okay, well, we're basically just having this podcast so people that don't know of you or are looking for an attorney for personal injury, maybe you can give them kind of a little bit of a miniature education before they actually make a phone call and look to hire somebody. So you're a personal injury attorney, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so obviously, personal injury. When I think about it, I think about cases of car accidents and things like that. But you pretty much do a lot of areas of personal injury on top of car accident cases, right?
Yeah, sure do. Personal injury, as you mentioned, most people limit that or expect that to be just car accidents. But that can run anywhere from, dog bites at homes, oil-filled accidents. Really, any type of injury is something that we could look into in any circumstance, really, to see if there's some sort of recovery possible.
Okay, cool. And like, even if they just trip somewhere, like at a store or something.
Oh yeah, slip and falls are a big one.
Slip and fall.
Slip and falls, yes. Actually, we do cover a lot of slip and falls. They do happen. When you're at Walmart or Buffalo Wild Wings, Bass Pro Shop, anything like that.
Cool.
Those are just a few places that we've actually have cases with at currently. But if they don't take the proper precautions, wet floor signs, or they don't do the proper walk-arounds that they're supposed to do to make sure that there isn't any type of hazards in the aisles or anything like that, then there's obviously some liability there.
Awesome. Okay. So I always like to ask people when I'm interviewing people, pretend it's your sister, your brother, your mom, whoever. So I'm going to ask you this question, kind of frame it from, this is my sister who got in an accident here in El Paso. Hey, Karl, I just got in a car accident. Something doesn't feel right. I think I hurt myself. What should your sister do? What's the next step she should do?
So once there's been an accident of any sort, as we mentioned, the different types of variations, the most important thing to do is to go get it looked at. Go to the hospital, go to the emergency room, get some sort of evaluation. Then that way we have documentation of the incident and we can prove that any injury that you are currently dealing with is related to that specific incident itself. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking they feel okay. I think it's important still to just go get it looked at. Reason being is a lot of times you don't actually feel the damage that's caused by that accident until days later, whether it be some soreness, which could be a pretty good indication of something more severe that you just don't realize, which is why we need to make sure we take the proper steps and get all of the tests necessary to evaluate you properly.
Okay, so they go seek medical attention right away. Just maybe it's nothing, but maybe it is something. But you always want to take those precautions and do it. Time is of the essence in a way, right? But don't delay.
Right. It's important to do it as immediately, essentially, just because if you delay getting yourself checked out, especially, with the more time that passes, then the more difficult it is to get the insurance to accept that the injury itself is tied to that incident. Even again, if it's minor, because those little injuries, even if it resulted in nothing serious, there still is some liability there and still something that can be recovered for the client, no matter how small.
Okay, and so is it always good to hire an attorney in these types of situations? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people just deal with the insurance company. I'm guessing the insurance companies want to give you as little as possible, right?
Right. So it is important to have somebody who understands the process, the procedures, and understands how the insurance companies work.
And an advocate for you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Because, as you mentioned, the insurance's goal is to pay out as little as possible. They don't want to make you whole in a sense. And our goal is to make sure that we're able to recover the most possible amount from that incident. And so we have, an experienced staff that understands the process, understands the procedure, people who have worked in medical billing and knows how to read the medical billing codes and knows what the values of those injuries are, as well as people who have worked with insurance and in insurance. So they understand the process and the behind the scenes procedures that the insurance is used. So we have the right team together that knows how to basically beat the insurance in a sense.
Got you. So yeah, that leads me to the next section of questions about compensation when somebody hires you, and what kind of compensation do you recover for the injuries here in El Paso, Texas, or I guess do you represent statewide? Is it usually
Yes,
just
it is through the entire state of Texas. We can help you out regardless of city or county.
okay? So yeah, how does a court or how do you guys calculate damages to somebody, like the compensation? How's that calculated?
So, in order to determine the value of your injury, as I mentioned, we get you tested. We get you checked out by medical staff. Whether of course, going to the emergency initially on your own. Then we also send you to chiropractors to evaluate the extent of the injury. Imaging centers, they'll refer you to in order to get an in-depth look at the actual injury itself instead of just on surface level. From that, we're able to calculate the cost and expenses, and we also look at the future treatment that's necessary in order to increase the value of that by letting the insurance know that the extent of your injury does not end here. That extent does
Right.
follow you as your life continues.
So yeah, that'd be a factor. What are some other factors that increase or decrease a personal injury case or claim?
So what's very important is following the instruction that we do give you as far as making sure that you maintain that treatment, that you follow up with your appointments, that you're not skipping. Because when you skip and you miss, then that gives the insurance room to argue that your injury is not as severe or that the extent of the injuries aren't as bad as we claim. So we want to make sure that you follow the instruction. That you attend all your appointments, you do all your therapy, your physical therapy treatments or chiropractor appointments, everything, so that we can build that case, so that when we do send our demands, we're able to justify the amounts that we are requesting.
Okay, good stuff. From the moment they hire you, I mean, I guess it depends, but if you give me a range, how long does it usually take to settle a case?
So that range does vary at times, and that's going to be dependent on a few circumstances, whether that be the severity of the injury, or how long it takes to receive the proper information that we need in order to send those demands. So obviously, less severe injuries we're able to have a quicker turnaround on because the amount of treatment that's necessary isn't going to be as extensive. But when we have more severe injuries that require longer treatment, more appointments, things like that, it's going to take a little bit longer because we need to build the entire case file. And in order to do that, we need to have all the doctor's evaluations, treatments, recommendations, everything that they have with their reports. So it does vary slightly, but we do make it a goal of ours to have the quickest turnaround possible, of course, again, on a case-by-case basis. But we want to make sure that we can get our clients paid and made whole, in a sense, as soon as possible.
Okay, what are some common mistakes that somebody makes right after an accident that maybe could hinder their case?
So most common mistakes, usually when it comes to car accidents themselves, is people think that their injury isn't that bad, that they feel okay at the time. They don't realize that adrenaline is actually the reason that they're not feeling the injury itself. It usually does take a few days sometimes before people recognize it. I've had clients come in and say they didn't realize they had injury until even a week later. And then when we get them sent in for evaluation, they realize that, there was, whether it was whiplash or something like that from the impact, that it just took their body time to actually feel that injury. So regardless of the pain that you're feeling at the time, it's important to go in right away. That way we have documentation. And again, people think that they don't feel that injured. And so they don't think it's that bad, but they don't realize the severity of the injury. And that's why we need to get an in-depth look. That way we can evaluate the extent of those injuries and be able to properly get our clients properly compensated.
Okay. I guess I have another question. Usually what I understand, because I'm not a lawyer or anything, but this is why we're asking you so we can be informed.
Yes.
When somebody gets injured, they usually go after the person at fault's insurance company, usually, right?
Correct.
What happens if that person doesn't have insurance?
So,
and they're very poor, they have no financial recourse to compensate.
Yeah. So if the person at fault does not have the proper coverages, which unfortunately does tend to be an issue here in
It's
El
common.
Paso. It's very common. That doesn't mean that we can't get you some recovery for that injury. If you have the proper coverages, you're still able to go after that. So it's important for drivers in El Paso to get those add-ons. And I think that's
for your
something.
own insurance.
Yes, for your
Yeah.
own insurance,
Okay.
correct. You can get personal injury protection, uninsured motorists, and things like that. So that way, if the other driver isn't covered, or even if you're at fault, even if you're the person who's at fault, we could still recover for you if you have those coverages. We can use that as an avenue to make sure that you're compensated. And that's, again, another misconception that people think, oh, it's my fault. There's nothing I can do. But that's not always the case. And so that's why it's important to reach out, to call an attorney. And that way we can review the declarations page and see the coverages that your insurance provides. And then we're able to tell you and let you know that, whether or not we're able to do something for you. And a lot of times we are.
Okay. So when you get a lot of these personal injury cases here in El Paso, and obviously it goes to some kind of court system, how often do you settle out of court, and how often does it go into litigation, and then you have to deal with a local judge downtown or something? Is that where the court is, downtown?
Yes. Okay. So when there is an incident, the majority of the time we are able to get you covered and get you made whole, as I mentioned, most of the time. Now, there's going to be circumstances and instances where we do have to take it to litigation, but that's only going to happen if the extent of the injuries is far exceeds the amount of which the value of the insurance is willing to cover, or if the insurance just wants to fight us and isn't willing to accept liability. Majority of the time, we are able to prove who's at fault and get that liability covered. And again, even if the amount is exceeded by insurance, there is ways that we can stack additional coverages and increase the value in which we can recover, whether it be from other insurances, whether it be your insurance, the other insurance, or if you have two different policies with different vehicles. If you have uninsured motorists on, say, your motorcycle or your car and you're in an accident in the other vehicle, we could still stack the insurance from that other vehicle and use that as a way to increase the return.
Interesting. Okay. So remember, you're giving your sister advice. She doesn't live in Texas now. She lives in California.
Okay.
Bro, who can I hire to help me? What do I need to look for when I'm hiring a personal injury? Like, what questions should I ask to see if this guy really knows what he's talking? Guy or woman, I guess, knows what they're talking about. So, hey, sis, this is what you need to look for when you're hiring a personal injury attorney.
Well, you want to make sure that you have an attorney that has the time to dedicate to your case. There's a lot of instances where attorneys, as you can tell, they're just kind of looking for that quick return, that quick payout. And you want to make sure that you have somebody who's not going to just give up once they receive a denial, but that they're willing to take the extra steps and continue to pursue the case. I've actually had cases come into my office where they were originally denied and the other law office dropped them. But we're able to, again, continue to push and pursue that case. And a lot of times they do accept liability, even after the initial denial. Because as I mentioned, the insurance wants to avoid payouts, right? So they're not wanting to accept it right away in many circumstances, which is why we continue to push forward.
Cool. Obviously, there's a fee, there's a charge that comes to this. Are you guys based on a contingency, or do they have to pay you up front? Is the consultations free? How does that work? So we're going to call you, just got an accident.
Right. So we do free consultations. We want to make sure that anybody coming into our office, whether they choose to hire us or not, is well informed and understands all the information necessary in order to make that decision as far as what they think is right, best for them. It is going to be on a contingency basis for personal injury, meaning there is no upfront costs. Whether it be imaging centers or chiropractors or anything like that, we do operate off of letters of protection, which allows them to receive the treatment they need at no cost to them. And that way we're able to compensate those people who help us build the case, of course, at the end. And so it really is a zero cost opportunity for somebody to recover and make sure that they get what they deserve.
Well, that's great. So they come to you, you guys do all the work, you handle all the costs, even their medical. And then I guess you pay back the chiropractors once the case is settled. something like that?
Yes. So what we do is we work with the medical personnel in order to build the case and make sure that they're covered, and then they get their compensation at the end instead of requesting that upfront cost, and that's very beneficial because that makes sure that we're able to make sure that everybody receives treatment, whether they have the funds or the insurance that's willing to accept it at that time. So that way you make sure you get the treatment that you need to make sure that you can recover as quickly and as best as possible, and at the same time have the information and the documentation necessary in order for the best return at the end of the case.
Awesome. Okay, Karl, I got one last question before we wrap it up. If you could give one piece of advice for somebody involved, or somebody that's been personally injured through an accident, what would it be?
I would say that's to pursue the claim. Don't think that you're not injured enough and that that there's nothing there, because there's more times than not some sort of coverage that we can get for you. Another would be to not try to avoid making a claim on your insurance. When you're at fault, I've had clients that tell me that they don't want to make a claim because they don't want their premiums raised. What they don't understand is if the other driver is already making a claim, unfortunately, they're going to have that issue with insurance anyways.
Really?
And by filing your own claim, you're not going to increase those premiums anymore because it's still a singular incident. So you're not saving yourself anything by trying to pay for it yourself or, cover the cost or fix your own vehicle. Your best bet is to use the insurance for what it's for, and make sure that you're covered at the end.
That's really great advice. That really is great advice. Okay, well, that's Karl Luth. Just tell the viewers your law firm, your address, phone number, your website, so they can find you and give you a call.
Yes, sir. So my name is Karl Luth. I work with the law office of Karl Luth. We are located at 1790 North Lee Trevino. That is going to be in Suite 516. You can contact us anytime, day or night. We are available after hours, on weekends as well. We want to make sure we're available at anytime that's most convenient for you. That phone number is going to be 915-213-2025.
Okay, and you got a website?
We do have a website. It is going to be truthlaw.org.
Cool.